Hi, I'm Vinicius from Casal Partiu, and today it's a special day because we are here in Bucharest, in Romania, with a very special guest. We are here with Earl. Did I pronounce it right? I hope so. And he is a traveler. He has been a traveler for a long time. So we met him here in Bucharest by chance. Very, very weird coincidence. We can talk about this later. And today we are going to do this interview with him. It's really a privilege to get to know someone that has been on the road for such a long time. And I will start with a question that might not be the one that most people would imagine for the first question, but actually I know he likes Romania quite a lot. So I would start with this one, which is, so Earl, I would like to know what is it that made you so much, did it make you like Romania so much, and you've been here for a while now, so tell us about Romania. Why do you like it so much? And we are really curious about that.
There's many reasons why I like this country. Actually, yeah, it's an interesting place. Actually, first I'll say I was only supposed to come here for about a week, and I came through. I was just going to see a few places and then head to Bulgaria and to Istanbul. But then I met some local people here. It really comes down to that, and I'll say the number one reason why I like this country is because of the people. It's an amazing country. There's beautiful places to go, lots of destinations out in the countryside. The city even has a great energy to it. For a lot of foreigners, it's quite an affordable city to live, great value, lots of things to do. But again, it comes down to the people. I've met more friends here, local friends here, than I have in almost any country that I've been to in all my years of traveling. And as a result, after those 7 days even, I met so many people that I just couldn't leave. And I just had to stick around and see where it would go. And that's what I love most about here. And of course, those extra things are fantastic as well. Being able to go out for a weekend, you can go hiking, you can see castles, you can go to the Black Sea coast. There's so much that you can actually do in this region. And again, it creates this just fantastic energy along with the people that it gets pretty addicting the longer you stay. And it's very hard for me to leave this country now that I've spent so much time here.
Okay, so it's all about the people here, but then the question is, how did you get to know these people? I mean, I have to confess, we are even jealous because we've been here for a few days, and I would love to get to know all of those people also. So how did this happen?
Well, first I would say that out of all the countries I've ever been to, this is probably the easiest country that I've been to meet people. It might not seem it at first, it might seem a little intimidating. However, it's the kind of place where if you just go into any bar, restaurant, cafe, and you just start talking to people, generally the reaction is pretty positive, and next thing you'll know, you'll be sitting down with them, having conversation, and it's just very, very easy to connect with people here. However, the way it started for me was definitely a lot more random than that. I arrived in Bucharest, and a reader of my blog actually just sent me an email saying, "Hey, Earl, I'm here as well. I'd love to meet up. Maybe we can grab some dinner." He was from Montreal in Canada, so we met up. We had dinner. Went to one of the bars. Just had a drink afterwards. And he said, "I need to go now because I'm couch surfing, and my couch surfing host is coming home from work now, and I need to meet her at the apartment." I just simply randomly suggested, "Why don't you invite her out, see if she wanted to come out as well?" He said, "Maybe I can do that." So he contacted her, and she said, "Yeah, I'll come out." So she came out, and the next thing I know, she brought a couple friends, and we just happened to stay in. Everybody just got along, as tends to happen here. And next thing I know, I had a small group of friends to start off with, and I left Bucharest, went around the country for a little bit, came back to the city, and I was like, what do I have to lose? I contact these people again. So I contacted the people again, and next thing I know, I went out, and they introduced me to more friends, and suddenly I'd been in the country for about 10 days and had a big group of friends, a big social life, which for someone who's constantly traveling around is quite a good thing to have, because you don't get it often when you're constantly moving from place to place. And I think and that's how it all happened, just from that. And I'm still friends with actually all of those people now, even though I've been here for 2 years, and the social network has just continued to grow, all stemming from that one first encounter.
So I know that there is another place that you like a lot also, and it's kind of challenging sometimes, which is India. So what is it about India? Can you talk about India a little bit for us also, and what attracts you there? Is it the same thing? I mean, is it about the people also, or are there other different things that attracts you in India?
Yes, definitely. I love India actually, and as you mentioned, and I will say though it's probably for a little bit different reason than any other country that I might like. With India, I say that there really is no other place like it. There's, depending, it doesn't almost doesn't matter these days where you grow up, which part of the world. There's still a lot of similarities between people that you can connect with, and it just, you can adjust to a new destination pretty quickly. India is probably is completely opposite. Everything you see there, every minute of every day is seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling something that you've never experienced before in your life. And I think that makes for such a unique experience. So it's a fascinating place because you are basically almost arrived in another planet where you're forced to witness all these things that just you will never witness anywhere else. And as a result, I'm not necessarily saying that leads to like a relaxing holiday, but what it does lead to is probably one of the most educational experiences or challenging experiences that leads to, every time I'm in India, I'm forced to constantly reevaluate everything I know about life, how it works, what I believe, and based on what I'm seeing here, things that I'm seeing that I never knew existed. And as a result, it's a great way to challenge yourself and to grow as a person. With that said, I can certainly understand why a lot of people don't necessarily feel the same about India when they go. As many people know, 50% of the people love India, 50% of the people who go hate it and never want to go back. And I think I can perfectly understand that angle. It's because it's such a different culture and things are so different, such as a lack of privacy, where people are constantly staring, or there's no personal space anywhere. Things like that, just sort of the lack of rules, the chaos, all of those can be naturally uncomfortable, and I can, especially for most of us who are used to living in a completely, at least a more organized world with more privacy, more personal space and things like that. So it's very natural that suddenly showing up and dropping down in the middle of Delhi would be quite an uncomfortable experience, or it's a shocking experience, and that's why you hear all those words that are used by people who do visit India. However, I do believe if you do stick around, if you do travel throughout the country to all over the country, because every state is almost like its own little different country with different culture, different religion, different food, different values, and you really are gonna again get just such a diverse collection of experiences that you won't get anywhere else. And to me, it's just I've been 12. I think I've been 12 times, and I'm going back in a couple of weeks. And I know, even though I've been 12 times and been all over the country, I'm still going to see, hear, smell, taste things that I've never before experienced in my life. And that's something for me that's very exciting. And because I know, again, I'm going to continue learning with each visit to that country. And there's few places on the earth that I've seen or I've been to that offer that kind of a learning experience over and over and over again.
Okay, so now we've talked about two great places, Romania and India. So I guess now it's a time when you should probably introduce yourself a little bit more and then tell us how did this actually start, because it's been a long time that you've been on the road, and how it started, and why are you traveling for such a long time?
For me, it actually started back in 1999, and I just graduated from university, and I decided to give myself sort of a graduation gift, a 3-month trip to Southeast Asia. So I had everything planned. It was actually my plan to be a sports agent back home in the U.S., and the plan was to go travel around Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam for 3 months. I had very little money, about 1,500 US dollars to my name. Figured that would travel on an extreme budget, and then return home and start my career. It was about a week into that trip, actually, and I was celebrating the millennium in Cambodia. Yeah, I just changed my mind. I was just sitting actually on an ancient wall in the jungle in this amazing temple in front of me, and I'm just looking around thinking, man, I've learned so much in the last week. I've learned more in the last week than I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years of education, formal education, and I've met such amazing people. I've seen amazing things, and I just suddenly couldn't imagine going home after 3 months and knowing that there's so much more out there in the world, and that there's so many more people to meet, so many more incredible destinations to explore. And that was it. I literally just said to myself, I need to figure out how to travel indefinitely. I had no plan. I had no idea how to make that happen whatsoever. I didn't even know anybody who had been traveling for long term, more than 6 months or so at that time. And somehow I pieced it together. Fast forward quite a few years, and through a combination of teaching English in Thailand, some volunteer work in India, I worked on cruise ships as a tour manager on and off for several years. And then now I've been working online and been a travel blogger for the last 4 years. Sort of somehow all of that has combined into 14 years of travel so far at this point. So it's been 14 years since I've been living in the U.S. and the journey just keeps on going, and we'll see where it goes next. I have no idea, but it's still, even if I think about it, I'm quite surprised that it's somehow I managed to take that goal, that dream back then, and actually turn it into reality. And it just somehow it did work. And here I am, 14 years later, in Bucharest, a place I never would have imagined I'd be, and have no idea where I'll be in a few months or in the next 14 years. So it's quite exciting, I guess.
So I was just listening to your answer and thinking, what did people think back home? Like your family or your friends? How did they react to this idea of traveling more than your 3 months, which is probably a lot already? So, what kind of reactions did you have at this point?
That's a very good question, and as you might imagine, I didn't receive too much support in the beginning. I thought I was a little bit naive, I guess, where I thought, oh wow, I just came to this realization that I want to forget about 3 months. I'm going to explore the world forever, and so I, sent that off to my family and friends, thinking that they would be like, wow, that's amazing, great idea, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's obviously not what happened. So yeah, my friends were just sort of, are you sure about that? They weren't quite sure. They didn't know of anyone who had managed to make that happen, so they thought it was a little bit strange decision, and they were like, I think you should probably come back first and think about that. My family was a little more direct, of course. They were, no, that's not a good idea at all, and they just assumed that giving up a career that I had studied, at university for, to travel indefinitely and not really have much of a plan there at the beginning was obviously a waste of time. They thought I was just being just a sort of an immature decision, not being responsible, and that I was just trying to avoid any responsibilities back home, that I was just going to go and float around the world as a bum for a while. How was I going to make money? How was I going to do this? Where was I going to sleep? What was I going to do? It was sort of all that. So they were not too thrilled with the decision at all. And that actually lasted for quite a while. So it lasted for several years because, for the first several years, I still was working on formulating a plan. I was managing to travel, and I was able to figure it out piece by piece, but, I was just making enough money to survive. I still wasn't able to create anything, and I was still, as my friends back home were starting to get their jobs and grow in their careers, I was still kind of floating around a little bit there. It wasn't until I finally got a job as a tour manager on the cruise ships, as I mentioned, where my family started to see, wow, okay, he's actually doing something. He's able to make money, save money. He's actually able to create his own lifestyle. And ever since then, it's gotten better, and now everybody fully supports my ideas. My family comes out and visits me a couple times a year, wherever I am. My friends are constantly coming out to visit me. It's great for them now because nobody has to plan a vacation. Just wherever I am, they just show up. And so it took a long time, as I probably should have expected in the beginning. But these days, I got the full support finally, and it makes it all even more wonderful to share it all with everybody.
So, of course, 14 years later, many things probably changed. I mean, as you said, you now get more support for doing this, and this is absolutely great. But also, there are many things that changed in terms of technology and everything else that probably has made traveling much easier than it was when you started. So, in your opinion, what kind of change that you've seen in those years that definitely make it so much more feasible these days to do the kind of thing that you are doing?
I think there's two answers to that. There's two parts to the answer, at least. The first one has to do with just information. Back then, it was obviously very hard to have access to any information. If you were even flying to a place like Bangkok, it was very hard to actually find out where you should go when you arrive, what parts of the city maybe you should stay at, even to find places that you could stay and book them ahead of time, or just to have an idea, just to get some kind of information so that you're a little bit more prepared than just showing up without knowing anything. So that was a little bit difficult at that time. Now, obviously, in a half a second, I could go find out where I could go stay in the middle of Mogadishu, Somalia, if I wanted to, and just, you can find out absolutely anything in an instant. So now it's just the information is everywhere, making the actual process of traveling much easier. And it's also, I think, in a way, it helps you save money because or stretch your money because you're able to see how other people have done it. You're able to see how other people have managed to, to get the most for their money, and as a result, you can do the same. So it makes your money last longer. Obviously, helps you travel longer as well. The other aspect of that is work-wise. When I first started off, I didn't know anybody who was working, say, online or who was doing or working remotely from, for companies back home. I didn't know anybody that was doing anything like that. Everything was teach English, volunteer, or something like that. So it was quite difficult, and it took many years. I actually only been working online for about the last 4 years now since I found that. But now, because of the changes in technology, it's just everybody has more access to opportunities to earn an income without having to be physically present in one location. So, I mean, I think that's a great benefit of it, is that there's a million ways to make money using current technology today and to earn an income. And as a result, it enables a lot more people to at least try. It's not for everybody, but to at least try and go after and achieve their travel goals, these big travel dreams that they've had of traveling around the world and earning money as well. It allows us to try. And for many people, they succeed. For some people, they realize it's not for them and they go home. And for other people, they try it for a little bit, and that was what they wanted, and they achieved their goals, and then they head home as well. So I think that's the biggest benefit, is that more people are now able to get out there, learn how to save money, learn how to earn money, and have access to all this information so they can make great decisions about where they should go and really help them achieve their travel goals. And I think it's all made a huge difference, obviously, as more and more people that I meet all the time from countries all over the world that are giving this kind of a lifestyle a try.
So speaking of work, of course, working online is a great choice. But recently, or maybe not so recently, you've made another change in your career, so that you are not only working online, but you are also organizing those tours. And those tours they have a different angle to it compared to regular tours. And I was very surprised about what you've done about that. It's kind of interesting, so I really would like to know more about this. Can you explain to us what are you doing with those tours? What's the idea, and what is the kind of people that you expect to use your services in this kind of tours?
Yeah, the tour project, I call it Wandering Earl Tours, and yeah, it's interesting. It came about around the end of 2012 simply because I had readers of my blog were emailing me asking, hey, I would love to travel with you to a place like India. Is there a way that I could come and join you while you're there, just to travel around? So I got this idea that maybe I could organize some unique kind of small group tour, or I could take people to various countries around the world, countries that I know very well, and countries that maybe they wouldn't be so comfortable going on their own or for their first time traveling. And so I put some work into it, and I came up with a concept. And the concept with the tours is that I like to say they're small group tours, but it's more like independent travel with the support of a small group. So there's a lot of free time. It's very laid back, but these are not tours where you're in a big bus, a big tour bus or anything like that. We use trains, we use local buses. We stay in the heart of the cities and really in the market areas. We go exploring the lanes. We eat at very local places. So it's sort of basically the way I would travel if I was traveling on my own, but it's with a small group. There's a maximum of 10 people, in order that everybody can maximize their experience. And as a result, it's sort of a way I really like to sort of provide an outlet where people who want to travel but aren't quite comfortable traveling on their own can come on these kind of a laid-back trip. They don't have to worry about accommodation. They don't have to worry about finding places to eat or how to get from point A to point B. That's taken care of. They're just free to get there, to enjoy the actual true aspects of travel, to benefit from the experiences, from the interactions with people, and gain that confidence so that by the end of the tour, and this happens quite a lot with my tours, is when the tour comes to an end, many of the people who had never traveled before on their own now have the confidence to go off on their own. So say like in a place like India, they'll travel on the tour for 18 days, and after that, they spend 2, 3, or in one case, one of the girls on the tour spent a year in India afterwards, and she had never been out of her home country before that. So it's a great way people to sort of get comfortable with traveling. For me, I love it because it gets me off the laptop a little bit, and I'm actually out there interacting with people, and I get to show people some of my most favorite countries on the planet, and truly share the experience overall. So I'm loving the project, and I have about 5 tours so far planned for this year, and hopefully it'll continue to grow each year.
So just before we change subjects, still about work. Working online, especially as a blogger, how did you manage to somehow make money as a blogger? I mean, over the years, I guess in the beginning, how was it? I mean, did you manage to get some money somehow, or how did this evolve, and how is your view about this these days?
Yeah, I mean, first I'll say, if you're even with blogging or with anything that you do online, there's almost an infinite ways of making money. And I think in my case, yeah, I made some decisions and I sort of created my own strategy from the beginning. So for my blog, I actually didn't make really any money for the first couple of years at all. That was sort of a strategic decision. So, as your blog does start to grow, you do start to get offers from advertisers that are willing to pay you to put advertisements on the site. For 2 years, I turned them all down. Just sort of had the strategy that maybe my readers wouldn't like to see advertisements all over the site, so I was going to concentrate more on building a place that more and more people wanted to come, more and more readers wanted to come, basically to build a community. So I tried to build the biggest community as possible. And after 2 years, then I started to think, let's look at exactly what this community wants. Like, how can I help them achieve their travel goals even more? So that's sort of how I've looked at making money. And that sort of led to, I would look at the questions that people email me. People email me every day questions or leaving comments on the site. What are they asking me? So that's how I created a couple of ebooks that I wrote based literally on the questions that were most common that people were asking me. One was how they can find a job on cruise ships. And another of the popular questions was just how do I get started with this life of travel? So I created 2 books, one how to work on cruise ships based on all my experience, and also how to live a life of travel, to really help people, very thorough guide to help people get started. So I offer those 2 ebooks. I have a few sponsorship deals now with a couple of companies that didn't approach me, more of stuff that I literally use and I love. I will only sort of mention things that I love, that I actually use in the travel world, and that I'm more than happy to promote them. So I basically have these sponsorship deals, which obviously offers a little bit of side income as well. And then there's other stuff too. I do some blog consulting now. I help some other bloggers get started, who are starting to get starting their blogs, and they want to know, how do I build my audience? How do I grow this blog? So I offer consulting for that. And as was mentioned before, I also now do the tours, because again, people were asking me, how can I travel with you? So I think that's sort of my strategy, was to look at the blog, look at the readership, look at the audience. What do they want? How can I help them achieve their goals? And then sort of try to offer something that directly addresses those problems and provide a solution. So that's sort of the method I've taken. But again, there's blogs out there that take advertisements, they get press trips all over the place. There's just so many ways that you could make money with it, and you sort of have to create your own strategy. That just again is the strategy that I've chosen for mine, and now it is working. It's sort of full-time work, but it's going very well, and yeah, I'm happy that I chose this method.
So now changing the subject a little bit, over the years you certainly has changed your style of traveling. So now, for instance, you are spending more time here in Romania, and I guess you also spent more time in other places before that. So in your opinion, what does really change when you actually are traveling kind of in a more fast kind of way? And how does it change from when you are actually spending more time in a place? So what's the real difference between them?
I mean, for me, I would say that the main reason I switched from going sort of more at a fast pace, bouncing with a backpack on, bouncing around from place to place, to sort of a pace where I have a base and I sort of stay in that place for a couple of years, and sort of while exploring the region at the same time, but always having that sort of comfortable place, the comfortable, having your own apartment that you can come back to, your own group of friends that you can come back to, a familiar city, a familiar surroundings. It just sort of helps a little bit. And the reason I made that switch is because, the more work I've started to do, it's very difficult. You can technically work and travel at the same time, but you can't actually do those literally at the same time. So for me, if I'm concentrating on travel, I want to be out there concentrating on travel. But when it's time to work, I need to be able to concentrate on work. And if you're constantly moving around, changing your surroundings, new beds, new cities, new atmospheres all the time, it's very hard for me to get from my travel brain into my work brain and actually be productive with work. So that's why I made the switch to sort of, I'll stay in one place, say, for a couple of months, concentrate on work a lot, really get some stuff done, so that I can then go off for a couple months and not have to worry too much about work and be able to concentrate more actually on my travels and enjoying the travel experiences. And I think, at the same time, though, there's not, you get benefits from both by obviously traveling at a more faster pace. You're able to see a lot. You're really able to soak up the experiences and just have all these great new experiences and meet all these new people constantly. It's just this constant stream, educational stream that you have. That's obviously that's just an amazing feeling to be in Indonesia, then Malaysia, then Thailand, and just really see all the great sights and meet all the great people that are out there in the world. At the same time, with the slow travel, it offers a chance to sort of be a little more settled without actually going home and being settled. So you not only meet great people, but you actually get to see them over and over again, as opposed to when you're traveling quickly and you meet great people, you hang out with them for a day or maybe a week, and then boom, you got to go to your next destination. Now, when I travel slowly, I'm able to see them. I have a sort of a social circle, and you get to hang out with your friends over and over again, which is nice. You become familiar with the actual place, so you dig deeper into sort of a different level of a city or a country because you're spending so much time there, and you basically, as a result, you get to discover things that you absolutely would not be able to discover, of course, if you were just passing through at a much quicker pace. So that's sort of the main differences. They both have their pros and cons, obviously, but in the end, I think they're both great ways to travel. They both offer different things. Everybody has their own sort of travel style, and I used to travel very quickly, or more quickly, and I loved it. And it just came a time in life for me where I just realized that maybe that wasn't for me anymore, that I needed to make some adjustments based on the work that I now had and just different goals. And so now I made the adjustment to the more slower pace of travel, and that's perfect to me at this stage. So again, you have to make your own decision, but they're both again great ways to explore the world.
So I used to say that there are two different worlds. There is this one on the TV and the other one which is the real world. And on the TV, which is a world that many people get to know, it looks like a very dangerous world. And you've been to some places that people normally would not dare to even think about going, like, I don't know, maybe a place like Afghanistan or Pakistan or North Korea. I mean, kind of some of those places that you've been to and people wouldn't even think about doing something crazy like this. So in your experience, what kind of experience you have that you felt that was kind of dangerous, or generally do you think that traveling like this can put you in some kind of danger that is more than if you were at home? How does this kind of thing work? I mean, is it so frightening to travel like this, and especially to places that on TV people would be so afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great topic because I think a lot of people have this idea that the world is dangerous, and everywhere, where they just think outside of their sort of own community or their own country, that the world is just automatically more dangerous based on what we see, of course, every day on the news. I mean, the news is terrible if you read the news or watch television and hear about everything that's going on. However, I'll be honest, in the 14 years I've been traveling, I mean, I've basically had my wallet pickpocketed in Delhi once. And really not much else. And the thing is, what I truly believe is that if you use the same common sense that you're using back at home to stay safe, if you use that same common sense when you're traveling to pretty much anywhere in the world, you're going to be just as safe. And if you actually take the time to look at the statistics or look at the numbers, some of these countries that we think are so dangerous or much more dangerous than our home countries are actually much safer and than what we sort of have to face back at home. And so really, I truly believe, though, that common sense goes a long way, and I'm confident that if you ask any solo traveler, male, female, couples, or any families traveling out there, if they agree, I'm confident that almost everybody would absolutely agree and say common sense is basically what's needed to stay safe in the world, and nothing to really worry about. You need to go in with a positive attitude, believe that people are great. The overwhelming majority of people, they're great people. They don't want to commit any crimes. They don't have anything against you. They don't want enemies. They just want to live a happy life, meet new people just like we do. And I think when you realize that, it's very important, and you sort of go into each country with a different attitude, and one that will ensure that you do stay safe, because there's really not much to worry about in the end. With that said, it's not, as mentioned, I have gone to like Pakistan, Afghanistan. A few months ago, I went to Yemen. I'm not exactly recommending that everybody suddenly goes to these kind of places, because Of course, there are increased risks of something happen in certain places that are definitely, there's just other situations that are going on that do increase the risk. But the reason I go there personally is to show that I can go to all these places, and as soon as I arrive, I cross the border. It's not as if I'm instantly kidnapped and taken away or something happens. I'm able to have some pretty amazing experiences. I spent 6 weeks in Pakistan, and not one negative thing happened. I mean, people were so overwhelmingly friendly that it was incredible. And I think that's why I go, is just to show that don't just believe, what we see, that some incident is happening somewhere, that the whole country must be, terrible and dangerous and that. It's just that I just trying to show people that the world actually isn't as dangerous as we think. And again, the overwhelming majority of people, they're great people out there. They'll help us instead of harm us. And you kind of have to have that attitude. And that, coupled with the common sense, is you can go almost anywhere on this planet, and you'll have just rewarding, safe travel experiences like countless other people have already had and will have in the future. So again, the world is definitely much safer than we tend to believe just from watching the media.
What do you think about your future? I mean, you probably at some point maybe you'll have like a person that you will get to know, and then you eventually will get married or something. Eventually, maybe even have kids. So, how do you think about that? I mean, of course, we're talking about future, but it's I think it's a special situation for us since we're traveling. I guess imagine, so if we have kids, for instance, would we go around with them? So what do you think about that? And probably maybe you have seen other like couples around like ourselves, and other couples that maybe even with kids. What kind of things have you seen, and what do you kind of expect that could happen to you in the future?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, the thing is, first, I've seen everything. So I've seen couples travel. I've seen couples that were couples before they started traveling continue and create a life of travel and travel for many years. I've seen people meet each other on the road and get married and travel for a long time. I've seen people traveling with kids, young kids, old kids. I saw one family traveling with 6 kids. You see absolutely everything out there. So at the end of the day, I'm perfectly aware that absolutely anything is possible. Anything is possible, whatever I might decide to do. And it comes down to that decision. So generally what I always say about the future, first, I actually don't think about it too much at all. Very rarely. Because my theory is that, I don't know, let's say tomorrow I wake up and I think, oh, okay, it's time to stop traveling. Now I really don't feel like traveling anymore, it's time to stop. Then I'll stop. Or if I wake up or I meet somebody and we spend time together, I say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to travel. I don't feel like traveling anymore right now. I'd rather stay with this person and see where this leads. Then I would do that. And again, similar, it goes on and on. If I think, I think actually I would like to get married instead of doing this, then I would do that. So it's sort of more of just taking the situation as it comes and making the decision that truly feels right at that time. And if I met somebody and spent some time, but then I still thought about it, I'm like, you know what, there's still more of the world I really need to explore, then I would probably lean that way and go and choose the travel. So the good news is that I know everything is possible, so I'm confident that whatever situation I might face, whatever decision I make, it'll work out. But again, I really don't think too much about it because I have no idea who I'm going to meet tomorrow, where the road is going to lead, and I sort of just take it as it comes, knowing that no matter what, I'll always make the decision based on what I truly feel inside, what I really want to do at that time, and just go from there.
Some time ago you wrote this post, which was kind of a conversation with your younger self. And I was wondering exactly what kind of thing would you say to your younger self? And not only that, but actually there's so many young people these days that would love to travel like this as well. So what kind of final message could you give them to kind of say that their idea is actually okay? I mean, if they go around traveling like this, it's probably going to turn out very well for them. So what kind of final ideas could you share with our viewers right now?
Yeah, the truth is that actually what I would tell my younger self is probably the same thing I would tell anybody who sort of has the idea of traveling and but isn't quite sure if it's really possible, because as I sort of mentioned in the post, I really wouldn't tell my younger self much because I really wouldn't want to spoil the journey, spoil the adventure that's ahead. I'd want him to just know that he can do it, that he can achieve whatever goals are in his head, and then to I would basically just want to make sure he has the confidence to know that he can take that first step and get out there and actually achieve his goals. I wouldn't want to sort of lead him along the way. I'd rather him have that adventure and see where it leads, because I think that's one of the beautiful things of this kind of a lifestyle. You never know where it's going to lead. With every step, with every new interaction, who knows where it's going to take you in life. So as a final message, I would say to people, you know, it seems very difficult. It seems like it's something that's not possible to achieve, to get out there, to travel long term, to maybe make money not in a traditional setting back at home. But all you have to do is some research and you'll find thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people from countries all over the world that have managed to make this happen. It's possible. The hardest step is by far the first step. Once you take that step and you just get started and you move forward and you say, I'm going to do it, almost every time people, again, you start to stumble upon opportunities, you start to meet people, things will happen that you can't actually envision right now when you're back at home, say, in your normal routine, with your normal job in your hometown. It's hard to imagine what's actually out there from that point of view. You actually need to take that first step, get out there, start to meet some people, start to explore the world, and then you'll start to have these opportunities. These doors will open that, again, you could never have imagined would even exist before you left the trip. So the thing is, you just have to just do the research, get the confidence by looking at all these other people from around the world that have already managed to make this happen in millions of different ways. There's not one way to make it happen. There's not two ways. There's literally millions of different ways to earn money, to keep it going, to do work exchanges, to volunteer, to so much opportunity out there. And once you start to see that all these people have found their own way to do it, it just comes down to determination. If you're determined, I will always say that determination is by far the biggest factor that will allow you to achieve your travel goals. Money, you can make money out there. There's always ways to make money out there. That's no problem. That's not the biggest factor. The biggest factor is just saying, I am going to do it. And yes, there might be some challenges. It might not be 100% the smooth ride, but I'm going to see it through. I'm going to make it happen. If you can have that kind of a determination, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from achieving your travel goals. And again, just look around the internet, you'll find thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have already taken that first step and have already achieved their travel goals. And I will tell you, there's a final thing. If you ask anybody who has taken that first step and gone out there, no matter what the outcome, regardless of whether they ended up traveling for 10 years or they traveled for a year and decided that was enough and came home, or whether they traveled for a few months and said, nah, this isn't working out so well, I'm going to go back to my normal routine back at home. Regardless of the outcome, it will be very hard to find somebody who actually regrets taking that decision to travel in the first place. So no matter what happens, almost nobody regrets having taken that first step. So that hopefully will give you the confidence to get out there and try for yourself and see what happens in life, and again, see where the road may take you, because there's an amazing world out there, an amazing adventure ahead if you actually do take that first step.